Hey there, YouTube. um, so I'm trying out kind of a different setup. I don't know how well it's going to work out for me, but I'm giving it a shot. Um, Today I want to talk about, well, you know what? Let me start with, I mentioned I might start doing this, so I'm going to give it another go. Today, I've been carrying around my Tenacious Coast G10, just a simple AAA flashlight. And then, like I said before, I normally carry some kind of tool set up. I little Swiss Army, I think it's an SD Classic with a Night Eyes pry tool. And then the Timex Expedition black leather band. Super cheap, super easy. I really like all of these things. I mean, of course, I wish this had a better steel, but you know, whatever. One of these days, I'll get into flashlights. This little Coast is a $10 flashlight, and it has been with me for years and years. But anyway, that aside, today I'm going to talk about the Spyderco Para3. Oop. This one's fairly new to my collection. I didn't talk about it before when I was talking about all my other Spydercos because, man, I had these micarta scales en route, and I wanted to get these installed before I started talking about this one. So, why am I failing at this today? There we go. Spyderco Para3 S30V, made in the USA, compression lock. Genuinely one of my, I mean, I haven't had this for very long, but I am a big fan of it. So this, oh yeah, this is also phosphor bronze washers. The more knives that I work with, so I've taken apart leaks, and I've taken apart my griptilian or my bug out, and I've taken apart my full-size grip, and I've taken apart plenty of Tenaciouses. Now I've done a couple of these higher end Spydercos, between this one and the Gail Bradley and the Magnitude, and I am really starting to like the general simplicity of the Spyderco design. The way they did this is really, really simple to work with. The hardest part of it was this lanyard hole. So yeah, anyway, back to the knife. S30V, black coated, black DLC coated. Micarta scales, Rips Garage. That's where I got these. And then just a black G10 backspacer I got from Caveman Knives or something like that. Hang on a sec. It's called Caveman Knife Scales. Compression lock. This one is every bit in terms of like the amount of friction that you feel in opening, on par with, well, I'll get into that later. Let's do a quick size comparison. The Para3 versus the Leak. So, you know, we'll notice that Para3 it's kind of an odd shaped knife. It's got way more, its handle to blade ratio is a bit wonky, but that's part of the character of the knife. So you'll notice that the Leak has the same or maybe a slightly longer blade length, but a substantially shorter scale. There's something to that. The Benchmade bug out. This is probably, I would say, the knife most that this was created to compete against, or vice versa, whichever came first, I don't really know. These two knives were probably the main competitors of each other. You know, just kind of a small EDC knife. This one is obviously going to be substantially heavier than this one, but we'll finish the comparison. And then finally, its brother, the Tenacious. Like I said, the one I happen to be carrying today. So, size-wise, in terms of overall length, it's every bit comparable to your run-of-the-mill EDC knives. Blade length, it's right in there. Well, let's find out. Let's get the actual knife specs. So blade length, we are looking at, well, overall blade length, we're looking at 2.75 to 2.8 inches. 2.8, 2.85 inches. Cutting edge, it's going to be about 2.6 to 2.75, somewhere in there. Overall length, it's going to be, I am doing this wrong. Overall length is about 7 1/4. So yeah, it's a pretty small knife. But it rides in the pocket nicely. I actually did I've ordered it, I just haven't gotten it yet. I've got a MXG deep carry pocket clip on its way. But yeah, so I had a friend of mine wanted to see basically a comparison of the Benchmade mini griptilian with the Paramilitary 3. So cutting edge, very similar. Overall blade length is basically identical. Again, where you're going to notice the main difference is in the scales, but that's not necessarily, while it's not proportioned necessarily visually well, it fits in the hand so nicely, and it's got that forward choil you can choke up on for, you know, more detailed work. Just really good ergonomics on this knife. It feels really good in the hand. But yeah, there they are. So let's take a quick look at the blade stock. It's a little thicker than the mini grip. It is right about the same as the Tenacious. And again, I always say it, Tenacious is a bigger knife than I always expect it to be. Now, I'm curious about its scales. The scales are about the same size. Yeah, this is just a really nice EDC kind of knife. I will say on this one, the mini grip is one of my cleanest actions. Like, it just feels frictionless. Like, you open it slow, and you close it, and you open it slow, and you don't feel you don't feel junk hanging up in the pivots. You don't feel stuff hanging up in the washers. This knife also phosphor bronze washers. It's really clean action. I've got these, I got the pivots probably just a little too tight. Like I said, this is a brand new knife. I'm sure it's gonna break in the more I do this, the more I just flip it and flick it. But there's a little bit of resistance, but just because the pivots are maybe a little too tight, and I did it that way just to maintain the blade centering, which I did a darn fine job on, if I do say so myself. Oop. But as the blade loosens up, that'll become more like this, where it's just broken in, it's well worn in. Oh, I didn't get a weight. Let's grab a quick weight on it. And for my friend who wanted a comparison, you know what? The Para3 is just a little bit thicker. With the aftermarket micarta scales, the Para3 is just a little bit thicker than the G10 mini grip. I mean, it's really minimal. So the mini grip is 2.78. The Para3 with micarta is 3.3 on the dot. I forget what all these are. I know I've done these a time or two and I forget what they are. The Tenacious is 3.96. So in terms of carryability, it's lighter. It's lighter than the heaviest one that I frequently carry. Yet overall, it's, you know, about the same as in terms of overall length. It's really about the same as all the rest of my regular carry pieces. In terms of width, I think I did that last time. It's, you know, it's about the same as, it's not going to be near as small as the Leek, the tiny knife. The Bug Out is a very thin knife, even with the aftermarket G10. But yeah, just a supremely carryable EDC companion, the Spyderco Paramilitary 3. If you guys have any questions, oh, by the way, this knife, as a veteran, I get a deal when I buy these, so I can't really speak to what I paid for it relative to what they cost. I want to say this knife in its bare version, the version I got, just black on black, is right around $100 to $115, I think. Could be up around $130. I might be mistaken. I paid less for it because I get a deal being a veteran. The micarta scales were, I believe, 60, and they were really not that hard to put on. The hardest part, like I said, was the lanyard hole. I spent $25 for the back spacer. You don't have to. I like it. I like it. Yeah, just a really smooth, really fidgetable, fun to play with. Nice looking knife. Nice looking piece. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Y'all have a great night.